in Sashin on their way to Unam. Holding her head, the woman replied with relief that she now felt less worried. A satisfied and joyful smile appeared on Mentor Khan's face, because he was sure that if the entire Iron Dozen were there, the chances of saving the third master would increase significantly. After concluding cooperation and clarifying all the details, representatives of the Iron Dozen decided to bow out and leave to prepare for the trip. When everyone had left, Master Khan approached the founder and leader of the White Dragon and announced that the nephew of Huang's bodyguard had arrived. He shared the news that young master was asking permission to go to Unam with the rescue team. The woman replied that she did not see a problem with this and allowed him to do whatever he wanted. The caring son noticed his mother's fatigue, so he invited her to return to the room to rest. Meanwhile, a commotion began inside the White Dragon Palace due to the fact that the youngest daughter of the Soin family decided to go with the rescue team. The determined girl stated that she studied martial arts at the Kuntun Monastery and was able to protect her own body. The leader of the White Dragon and also her brother tried to stop the self-confident girl who insisted on putting herself in danger. But she only did this because Jamin is a member of her family. Loyalty to each other was their strong trait. So Yoon Human could not dissuade her and understood this very well. The next day, everyone was ready to begin the mission. Young Master Mulan also arrived at the meeting place. He found it strange to feel that nothing would go according to plan. While the heir of the northern clan was enjoying the journey, Huang's disciple tried to start a conversation with him. He admitted that he was very worried and could not sleep. As expected, Mulan was very quiet. Taking a closer look at his teacher's nephew, he thought that they were not alike at all, because the older brother was calmer and more reserved, and moreover, silent. Trying to continue the conversation, Guak Moonjung admitted that this was his first route. His father was also a bodyguard, but had died a few years ago during a similar route, so he was more nervous than usual. With a not-so-cheerful tone, he remembered his mentor's words, that he would be the first to die if something went wrong. So he personally taught him some cultivation methods, and also nagged him a lot, and told him that he shouldn't relax during training. Hearing this, Mu Wan asked what cultivation technique Huang taught him. As the dialogue progressed, the guy happily stated that it was a three-step technique, the key aspect of which was that if he was patient and stuck with it to the end, it would help set him on the path to becoming a martial artist. He admitted that even though everyone said that he was untalented and should stop studying martial arts, Mr. Huang was the only one who understood his feelings and cared about learning, so he trained as hard as he could. Taking a closer look at the student, Mu Wan noticed that they were somewhat similar to Mr. Huang. Master Jin told him that if something happened, he should stay close. Kwak Moon-jung wondered if his older brother was truly a strong and reliable person. He was worried about whether to listen to his words. After all, it was logical to assume that it would be safer to stay with the Iron Dozen, because they are known as one of the strongest mercenaries. At one point, Che Yakran distracted her comrade. The guy looked at her and said that apparently she also noticed that guy. According to him, the person who caught their attention was on a completely different level compared to other bodyguards. Experienced warriors felt something strange in the key energy of Huang's nephew. It seemed to them that it was not there. The furious force was very interested in finding out what mystery that young master was hiding. Meanwhile, the heir of the Northern Heavenly Clan was thinking about how he should now live further. He dedicated his entire life solely to studying martial arts, and now the only thing he wanted to do was find Huang and Yun Hasiao. He thought about what he should do after he achieved. He was faced with the question of whether to take revenge on the Heavenly Alliance, or continue to live as if it did not exist. On the other hand, he was sure that his father would want him to give up his identity and start living a normal life, free from all worries. Despite understanding these things, he was not sure that he could live the way his father would. Mentally turned to his father, he said that his blood was boiling with rage, and he really didn't know what to do. He was distracted with deep thoughts by a cry from the vanguard and stopped. They arrived at the river and planned to cross in about 4 hours. Until this time, it was planned to divide into 2 groups, which would take place at the same guard. This plan was agreed upon by the White Dragon's bodyguards and a group of mercenaries they hired to help. There was a small establishment near the river where they were happy to sleep. Addressing the waiter, Master Mu Wan asked to bring something simple and satisfying to the two. The girl replied that in that case they would like their signature roast pork. It seems that the young student Kwak fell in love with her at first sight. Master Mu Wan noticed this and smiled. Afterwards, he put the guy in an awkward position, noting that he liked that way too. Kwak tried to lie and told his older brother that this was not so, but his was expressed in a little way, causing him to visibly blush. Meanwhile, the mercenaries also entered and behaved somewhat rudely. While the mercenaries took their seats and thought about what kind of drink to choose for the meat, the waitress brought the guys their famous roast. Addressing the student, she said that her name was So Ren. The guy answered hesitantly that his name was Kwak Moon-jung. As it turned out, the girl immediately realized that he was a bodyguard, so she asked if she needed protection. Then maybe she could come for him to the White Dragon merchant crew. The girl's cunning manipulation worked, and the shy guy replied that she could count on him. Children's love conversations began, hearing which Mu Wan began to smile. Meanwhile, ascetics from the Kuntun Monastery arrived at the cabin. The great mind noticed that the boy between
Kumakain ako.
had high status. He understood this because their monastery usually does not release young students into the outside world. And the only exception is when they have achieved high skill in martial arts, or if they are first-generation students. Noticing his younger brother's reaction, Mu Wan asked if he felt jealous, but he replied that he was not at all jealous. As it turned out, he liked being a bodyguard, and remembered his father's words that although they are paid to do their job, their duty is to protect the lives of their masters, as well as their property. He believed that because of this, people have great faith in their abilities, and cannot help but rely on them, because their lives are built on honesty and modesty. The young master could not even imagine a more magnificent job than the one he does himself. Sincere words interested the heir of the Northern Clan. He replied that his father must have been a noble man. During their calm and peaceful meal, one of the monks suddenly rose from the table and began shouting that he wanted to see the cook of this tavern. Loud cries of dissatisfaction forced the establishment to stop fulfilling orders. The worried cook, wiping his hands on a towel, decided to check what happened. Seeing the visitor, he realized what was happening. As soon as he entered the hall, a plate of his famous roast pork flew into his face. Seeing what happened to Dad, the little girl screamed. An angry and arrogant man shouted, "Cut this food." Their genius named Saul Gunn broke the soup. Kuntum Monastery. He believed that the visitor's dissatisfaction was due to the fact that he had left them, but the rude monk shouted that his words were just excuses. In response, the excited chef said that he does not make excuses and always checks the quality of the dishes before serving them to customers. Turning to his older brother, he assumed that he still held a grudge against him. In response, the martial artist remained silent. What we are talking about happened 15 years ago. Every 3 years, fighting competitions were held in the monastery. After another friendly battle, Master Han, as usual, emerged victorious, but did not become arrogant and tried to help his comrade get up. A student named Liu Hei knew that while this guy was in the Kuntum Monastery, he would not be able to reach the highest peak of their glory, because together with his comrade, he was destined to always be second. He considered defeat at that fighting competition humiliating. He saw other masters discussing that battle and harbored a deep grudge against his comrade, who was superior to him in skill. Despite this, Master Han found himself embroiled in some kind of scandal a few months later, and as a result, his career was forfeited and destroyed, and he himself was expelled from Kuntum Monastery. Even though that guy had lost his status, Liu still remembered the humiliating defeat, and the rage continued to burn in his heart. Recalling those events, Chef Han said that the only thing his comrade lost that day was his pride, while he himself was unfairly accused and eventually lost the ability to practice martial arts. He couldn't understand why his comrade still held a grudge. Addressing the visitor, the chef asked to clarify whether he really broke a tooth while eating his food. The genius student replied that it should be obvious that his tooth was clearly broken and it hurt like hell. As expected, it was all a vile lie. A few days ago, Soldan was training with his older brother Liu, and according to him, he tripped over some roots and broke his tooth. In response to his statement, the cook said that the future of Kuntum Monastery looks quite gloomy because there is no trace left of Master Fei's teachings and beliefs. He was dissatisfied with the fact that the followers of the monastery resorted to such lies. Hearing this, Liu began to feel angry and shouted that he could no longer bear to look at his arrogance. Filled with rage, the man hit the book in the stomach and filled with chi energy. The man flew into the wall and blood began to flow from his mouth. The excited daughter, with tears of panic, asked why they were doing this to his father, who was not guilty of anything. Seeing this, one of the bodyguards worried and said that he was losing his appetite. His comrade replied that they just needed to focus on their task, since there was no need to get involved in other people's affairs. The little girl ran up to her father's accuser and shouted that his words were a lie, because she was the one who prepared the ingredients, and therefore their words could not be true. As soon as she hit the man with her fist, he shouted that she was stupid if she dared to raise her hands on his sacred body, after which he hit the defenseless girl in the face. Seeing this, Che Yamen couldn't bear it and broke her chopsticks. She was furious at what the monks allowed themselves to do. But at the same moment, the great mind asked her to cool down and said that the Kuntum Monastery belongs to the 9 great clans, and their interference could cause some problems. He believed that if they became enemies, the Iron Dozen would be in a difficult position. Things started to get out of control the moment Clock's bodyguard volunteered to defend the waitress. Despite the trembling in his body, he decided to negotiate and introduce himself properly. Having learned that this was a student of the White Dragon merchant troupe, the man asked if the boy knew about their relationship. Looking at the unconscious girl, Clock asked them to grant them their mercy at least this time. He asked the monk to close his eyes to this incident. In response, the youth began to laugh arrogantly at the noble boy's words. He then began to manipulate the facts, and said that the bodyguard's words sounded like they had done something bad. He asked how dare a humble bodyguard, who receives money to train martial arts, stand in the way of an ascetic of the Kuntum Monastery. His words hurt the guy, and with tears in his eyes, he asked not to speak in such a tone about his work, saying that the duties of a bodyguard are something more, which is why this work is honorable and has no equal. In response, the man, filled with anger, shouted that he had stood in his way and dared to lecture him. The arrogant ascetic decided to draw his sword to prove that he was right. He said that he would show the guy mercy and take only one of his hands. The situation was extremely hectic. Master Jin could not allow his faithful ward student to become a victim, and decided to get up from the table. Wu Quan noticed this. He was very interested in the identity of this guy, but he was afraid of the consequences. Turning to the master, Wu Quan asked him not to be stupid and to restrain his anger, because that guy decided to intervene, although he knew that he should not have. According to him, Quack's disciple will be punished for his ignorance, and there is nothing they can do to stop him, but at least only his body and pride will be hurt by this situation. In response, Wu Quan asked if the student should be happy about his body being mutilated. According to him, when a martial artist loses his arm, it means the end of his life, while even a dog has pride. Wu Quan stated that true pride is enduring the hardships of complete loneliness while doing your best to fight for your beliefs. Looking into the face of the great mind, the guy said that people like him were unable to understand something similar that was inherent in true warriors. In response, the wise guy said that Master Jin looks at this superficially. He couldn't believe that he was really going to become an enemy of Kuntum Monastery with such a stupid and irrational belief. But as it turned out, Wu Quan thought it was wonderful that there was at least one such idiot in this world. A moment before the ascetic struck, the young master found himself directly in front of the bodyguard and stopped the sword with his bare hands. The guy was simply shocked when he saw that at the last moment, his older brother came to his aid. Seeing this, all the mercenaries were shocked by the dexterity and amazing skills of the master unknown to them. Not only they, but also the monks of the Kuntum Monastery could not contain their surprise. Master Wu couldn't believe that a sword block was used against him with bare hands, but he was sure that highly advanced fighting techniques were no match for his skill. The man was furious. He didn't know where the impudent man had come from, and how he dared to block the blade of a respected martial artist with just the fingers of his dirty, ignorant hand. His rage burst out from the fact that the guy opposite him didn't even flinch. First of all, he asked who he was dealing with, and how he dared to stand in his way, and whether he knew who he was. Wu replied with a serious and piercing gaze that he could be considered the elder brother of the boy who was targeted by that blow. He suggested ending their conflict at this point, but the arrogant master shouted that he was not seeing the eyes of the one who was asking for a favor. At the same moment, he filled his left palm with chi energy and used the rising cloud's palm technique. Noticing this, Wuwan calmly repelled his attack with the sheath of his blade. Looking into the eyes of the ascetic, he began to panic. Wuwan said that the duty of a child is simply to enjoy life, while the duty of a parent is to regulate. While the man tried to snatch his sword, which the master held only with his fingers, he continued to listen to the lecture. Wuwan reminded him that the duty of an ascetic is to cleanse oneself of one's worldly desires, including anger, hatred, and envy. When the arrogant ascetic tried to twist his blade, Wuwan clenched his fingers even tighter, and the blade was destroyed. Addressing the impudent man, he declared that everyone has duties that he must fulfill, while those impudent guys dared to disgrace the rest of the ascetics of their monastery. Master Mo, who held in his hands the destroyed sword, which was part of every ascetic, was in confusion. Seeing this, two more followers of their great plan rushed to attack the unknown young master who was trying to teach them about life. They shouted that the insolent person should shut his mouth, since he had no right to address them in such a tone. Before facing fools like this, Wuwan asked Munjong to take the waitress and her father away from this place. The guy was shocked by what was happening, but found the strength to accept the order of his older brother. Two martial arts masters simultaneously attacked the guy who didn't even hold a blade in his hands. Wuwan was on a completely different level and easily dodged the first sword strike. The genius disciple of the monastery struck in the air, but the young master defended himself with the scabbard of his blade. No matter how they tried, even together, they could not break through the defense of the master, who was much faster. Wuwan had no intention of resorting to killing these ill-mannered members of the big clan, so he sent Seal Gun flying with a strong kick. As he lowered his foot to the ground, he also hit the senior monk hard. Just a moment later, he felt another hostility. He easily dodged the sharp object that was flying towards him. As it turned out, it was a broken blade that flew into the wooden wall of the tavern. Wuwan had to teach Master Moby a lesson the right way, filling his palms with internal energy, young master, threatening to destroy him from his influence. But Wuwan, possessing incredible, managed to quickly close the distance and hit the enemy in the forehead, having destroyed the pride of the clumsy monkey, the guy grabbed him by the clothes. After that, he freed his other hand and attached the scabbard with his blade. Having his other hand finished freed his blade, the young master delivered several destructive blows to the insolent person's face. The enemies did not give up until the very end. The genius of their monastery, the toothless Gun, approached him with a fragment of a sword and boldly asked how the stranger dared to attack the ascetics. He tried to stab him in the back, but as expected, nothing happened to him. Wuwan grabbed the blade of his broken sword so tightly that no matter how much effort the monastery disciple made, he could not escape. A moment later, a loud crunch of bones was heard. Looking around, Kwak Munjong saw what had happened. Seal Gun's arm was broken and he started crying because of the pain. Watching all this, the mercenaries were completely shocked by the strength of the stranger and the situation that was happening in this tavern. The brilliant ascetic, on whom the monastery had pinned its hopes, was defeated and lost consciousness. Wuwan was simply shocked. He understood that all this was bad, because in this place there were members of the Iron Dozen who were probably noticed by those ascetics. He knew that if they interfered, they would face consequences.